Hey friends, hope you had a really good day today at school. Tonight we're going to read a story called The Night the Ground Shook, and it comes from Acts 16:11-40. The river rippled along, swirling and flowing and lapping at the rocks and grasses along its banks. Trees dipped their branches as the breeze ruffled their leaves. Paul and some of his friends made their way down the path to the river. Silas was one of the people with Paul. They had heard that there was a place by the river where people gathered to pray. It was much quieter than in the big city of Philippi. As Paul and his friends walked along the riverbank, they found a group of women. One of these women was Lydia, who sold purple cloth in the city. Lydia loved God, but she had not heard about Jesus, God's Son. So Paul told her and the other women about Jesus. Lydia believed Paul, and he baptized her in the river. Then Lydia invited Paul and his friends to her house. So they stayed with Lydia and her family for many days. One day, as Paul and Silas and the others were on their way to the place of prayer, they heard someone shouting behind them. They turned around to see a girl, a fortune teller, who was controlled by an evil spirit. She was shouting, "These men serve God Most High. They are here to tell you how to be saved." Every day this girl followed Paul and his friends, shouting the same thing. At last, Paul was tired of this. He turned around and told the evil spirit to leave her. And it did. The girl became calm again, but this girl had worked for some men who had made money from her fortune telling. Now that she couldn't tell fortunes anymore, these men were very angry. They grabbed Paul and his friend Silas, marching them down the street to the crowded, noisy marketplace. The men yelled to the city leaders that Paul and Silas had been teaching people to do wrong things. More and more people gathered around. Finally, some guards came and took Paul and Silas to jail. The guards warned the jailer not to let Paul and Silas get away. So the jailer put them into a jail cell deep inside the prison. By now it was getting dark. Paul and Silas knew they didn't need to go to a place of prayer to worship God, so they began singing and praying right there in jail. Around midnight, the ground began to rumble and shake. The locked chains of all the prisoners fell off, and the jail doors flew open. When the jailer saw what was happening, he thought all the prisoners would run away. He was afraid he would be in big trouble. But Paul called, "We are all still here." The jailer called for his helpers to bring lamps. Sure enough, no one had run away. The jailer got down on his knees in front of Paul and Silas. "What should I do now?" he asked. "Believe in Jesus," said Paul. "Then you will be saved." So the jailer took Paul and Silas into his house. He and his family let Paul baptize them. All of the people in the jailer's family were very glad that they knew about Jesus now. Paul and Silas were glad too. They spent the rest of the night at the jailer's house, and the next day, Paul and Silas went back to Lydia's house. The end, and I hope you sleep tight. Good night.